Let's save some for the guys you actually came to see.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Andy Price. Thank you. Since issue 1, I have been with IDW Comics doing the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic comic book. And this year I decided that I really wanted to stop the segregation of, oh, well, here's the comic artist and here's the show crew and everything, and we all get to play in the same sandbox, so I wanted to play with the voice actors. One of the disadvantages we have in the comic books is that we don't have their wonderful talents to inflict the emotions of our dialogue, like the show does. And for you guys that haven't gotten to meet any of the voice actors yet, they are wonderful people. They are here to entertain you, so we're going to bring them all out. Let's start with, can we get a big yeah? Michael Dobson.
Yeah!
Let's go another one. Next on our list, I got to meet this lovely lady last year for the very first time, and she is just incredible. She's enticing. She's got a great, great voice. I keep her on my iPod with my Beatles and my Rolling Stones. Let's bring out Kazumi Evans. We've got a new voice actress, who joined in season 4. Can we welcome Kelly Sheridan?
Welcome! Welcome.
Our next guest is an incredible person. I've gotten to sit and talk with her at length about the phenomena of the fandom of bronies, and she is just great. And in my opinion, she is the true power behind Ponyville, because she's the only character with thumbs. So let's bring out Kathy Weisleck. And our next guest truly is a mix of the two characters that she performs. This demure, little, blonde, shy girl until you get to know her, and she's an explosion of energy. So let's bring out Andrea Libman. None of us would be here if it wasn't for the power of the sun. Woo! Let's bring out Nicole Oliver.
This is the border. that what that is?
Let's keep that
Got to go
calm.
past this line.
I see everyone got the memo to dress in Canadian colors.
Camel colors.
Christmas colors, candy canes, candy canes.
So we've still got some people trickling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We are going to talk with everybody, and then we're going to open up for question and answers, because that's why you guys are here. So let's get the dull questions out of the way first. Who's your favorite ponies?
No, it's gotta be me, man. I believe everyone said Starlight. That was really great, guys. Amazing. I wrote a poem for the occasion. Would you guys like to hear it?
Yeah. But Kelly, only if it's followed by some interpretive dance.
By Nicole Oliver.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Oh yeah, definitely. Do you need to stretch? Are you okay?
Nothing's coming off.
Professional.
It's okay, nothing's coming off.
Ready? Yeah, that's a good one. P-O-N-Y. We all love that Fluttershy she pony. My name is Starlight. That mark ain't cutie, so I will steal it up off your booty. We all love that Fluttershy she pony.
Nicole Oliver, ladies and gentlemen, and Kelly Sheridan.
At BronyCon, you get the money.
Amazing. I think we should take that show on the road.
Oh my.
Will there be an encore?
All right, well, since we're here to talk about voice acting, let's get the...
And not that.
Let's get the prerequisite question out of the way. How did you get started in voice acting? Let's start way down there with Michael and just work our way.
Hello. Hi guys. I started off in theater, and then I did film and television. And Scott McNeil was doing a play, and we were both with the same agency at the time. And Scott and I used to hang out and joke around, and just one day he said to me, "Why are you doing voice acting?" I was like, I'd done a little bit of radio, and I'd done sketches on the radio and stuff in Victoria, and hadn't done any animation. I took a Sue Blue workshop. She remembered me from it. She was auditioning for G.I. Joe a few months later, so it was pretty fortuitous that I took her course. So she remembered me when I walked in for the audition. She said, "Hey, I remember you. You took my class." Anyway, I ad-libbed in the audition, made up a few extra Sergeant Savage lines, and nailed the role. Got the part. That was the first thing. And then after that, Ninja Turtles came along, and then a bunch of other stuff, and I've been fortunate to say that I've been doing it full time ever since. So, but theater.
I can see myself on the screen. I was just like, oh.
Hey, look.
They have monitors in front of the stage.
Well, always as a kid, I would always do imitations and kind of mimic voices, cartoons I would see on TV and whatnot. I had a first grade teacher, and she was British. And I got into a lot of trouble in the first grade because naturally I would just mimic her accent back to her. And so this was a problem she had, and my mom would just try to explain to the teacher, like, "Oh, no, she just means it friendly, she doesn't mean it like to be insulting or whatever." And so I don't know, I never knew that it would kind of grow into a skill. Into a job.
He says you're gonna get paid for that one, right?
Yeah, no, my mom didn't think so. She
Not the time, the whole way.
No. But I grew up doing musical theater, and that was my first love, and that was kind of my entryway into the performance world, into the entertainment business. And the agent that represented me about 5 years ago, he asked me, hey, are you into trying out for voiceover jobs? And I said, yes, sounds good. So I went out for auditions for a bit, didn't hear anything back, and then a show called My Little Pony came along. And I was invited by Daniel into his studio and to sing the theme song, and originally they wanted me to audition for the singing voice of Twilight Sparkle. But after singing it once, I was like, you know what, I think you sound more like a Rarity. And I was like, Rarity? I didn't know who Rarity was at that point. I was like, sure, cool. And then, yeah, I ended up booking it, and ever since then, yeah, I've been doing this full time, and thanks to My Little Pony and all of you.
Yeah, Little Pony?
Yes.
Amazing. Wow, what a way to start out.
I know, right?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, that is weird to see yourself.
I know. It throws you off.
Should have put more foundation on too. I was also a theater brat. That seems to be a common thread. Theater really helps you become a voiceover actor. I was a kid, and I was in a local youth theater that did international tours, and the woman that ran the youth theater also had an agency for young performers, for minors. And so she'd send me on film and TV things, which I didn't actually kind of love. I really loved theater, but film and TV kind of wasn't my jam. And she sent me on a voiceover audition one day, and I was in a studio recording the audition, and a director from a totally different show was kind of walking through the studio. And he went, oh, who is that kid? We need a teenage girl for this thing we're doing next week. And so they gave me my contact info, and I didn't get the job I went in to audition for, but I got this other thing. So, yeah, then I've just been kind of doing it ever since. Small roles turn into bigger ones and bigger ones, so, yeah, theater school.
Yep.
What's up? I just wanted to tell all you that I got a little bit more muscle this time.
So, I didn't come through the theater angle, although I did high school theater. But I got into voice acting through working for the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, first in Toronto and then in Vancouver. And I was heading for music producer land, and I also wanted to actually produce film and TV documentaries. So anyway, I was an associate producer for a radio show in Vancouver at the CBC, and the host of the show heard my voice and said, you ever tried doing any voice acting or voiceover? And I said, voice what? Like I had no clue what he was talking about. So he said, well, why don't you do a few commercials for us for a Christmas thing for Vancouver Centre Mall? You can do 21, we got 21 commercials, and you can do some crazy elf voices and, you know, stuff like this. And then I said, why are you choosing that first? Because you're acting silly at work and whatever, so I think you can do it. So I tried it, and I loved it, and I thought it was a fun hobby, and put it aside, and then time went by, and I decided I was going to change my gears and maybe do a master's in sociology or psychology, but just when I was going to gather all the material together, I ended up getting, and well, he helped me get an agent, the host of the show, and I just landed 3 shows at once, 3 series, and I was like, what is this? So I put it aside, and first role was Bessie the Goose in a promo called Kissy Fur. So
Bessie the goose, who was a very snotty little goose, lived nearby a pond, and you had to be able to give her, I don't know, some duck food before you could get into the pond. And
that's how it started. Here we are today.
That's funny.
She's really special.
thank you, dear. You do love animals, don't you?
Of course. I started as a kid. I did film and TV as a kid, and I had this high, squeaky voice, and and then it never went away. So I started in radio, doing radio commercials, and then that led into my first animated series, which was called Dino Babies, a long, long time ago. And shortly after that, Madeline.
Woo!
Yeah. And then I just was always waiting for my adult voice to come, so that's why I went to school for engineering, because I thought, oh, this won't last. And I'm still waiting. I'll let you know.
We're glad you're waiting.
How many people are under 18 in this audience?
Oh, it's gonna be that kind of panel, isn't it?
Uh-oh. Well, plug your ears for a minute. So, I slept my way to the top.
Secrets of Celestial. Baltimore romance.
Anyway, I started out as a dancer, a ballet dancer. When I was 3, my first performance, I peed on the stage.
Oh.
It's pretty much up from there.
Can we get some newspapers put down?
You thought it was just warm and wet here.
And then
That's horrible.
I danced and I blew up my knee and I did the high school play. And it changed my life. It was a play called The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, and I played Sandy the Betrayer. And Maggie Smith, who inspired me greatly, was in the movie version. All I remember in the play is walking on stage and then bowing, and somehow 2 hours had gone by. And I told my parents, I'm not gonna go be a lawyer. Could you imagine? I'm gonna go be an actor. And they said, fine, but you need to get a degree. Those of you under 18, unplug your ears now. You need to go to school. And so I did, and I went to York University in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theatre. So I'm a theatre brat as well. That's where I started. I was lucky enough to train overseas at Oxford. But I also, much like Kazumi, I imitated people at a young age and got in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I went back a few years later and got my master's in communications. I may go get my PhD if for any other reason, just so everyone has to call me doctor. And so I've been acting.
Dr. Nicole
It's been my
Oliver.
job for 26 years, and I feel very blessed. Every once in a while, they let me work on camera, which I still love. Apparently, I'm playing grandmas now.
Oh, good Lord.
But yeah, it's awesome, and so and voiceover acting for me. My first gigs were a show for CBS called Dumb Bunnies, way back in the day. Another show called Silver Surfer, and the original X-Men back in 1990. I really loved voice acting. A mentor of mine said you should try it out. You've got an okay voice, and I did. And I love that I can show up in flip-flops, and that I can be anybody. That my physical outside doesn't have to determine what I'm capable of, because we are all capable of so much more, all of us, than what we are, right? So that's why I love it.
So since they both said they can do a British accent, let's put Nicole and Kazumi on the spot.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I just heard my name and then I just said spot. Sorry, sorry, what?
British accent.
Why don't you guys have a little conversation in your worst Cockney accents?
Oh God. It's...
Cockney, it's terrible. It sounds like the duck goose thing, a cousin, a distant relation of Betty. Down by the pond eating, crackers.
What does goose do, Kat? What is a goose supposed to do?
Yeah, what she said.
Maybe it was a moose.
So, really, you can all do British accent, yeah? Come on. Right? Do it now.
Right.
1, 2, 3, talk! Impeccable.
It's not like we're actually outside of Buckingham Palace. It's actually wonderful. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Kazumi actually does an amazing horse impression too, not to put you on the spot, but we did a show together and we needed a horse Winnie, and Kazumi was always our go-to. Really good.
I think definitely the first time a show we were working on, come back. Definitely the first time that happened on the show, that was one of the times I did sprint home to my parents and be like, hey, you know the horse sounds I've been making over those years? I got paid today to make that sound. It paid off. It paid off. Years in the making.
Practice your weird animal sounds.
Yes, yes.
All right, so Michael,
Oh, no, you don't.
how did they approach you?
I beg pardon. Yes.
How did they approach you to give your trademark dialogue?
Oh boy.
He's saying dialogue like it's more than one word.
But in that one word, it carries so much resonance. You say so much with one word.
One word.
Subtext.
You just want me to just say yeah? Is that the deal? Should I say yeah? Should I say yeah? Should I say yeah?
Stand up and do it. Show us your biceps. Stand up and do it.
With the diaphragm?
Stand up and show us your
Well,
biceps.
if he stands up, he might smell his pants.
See?
Characters drawn after him.
Such power.
Yes.
I'm really jealous about that, but eventually I'm gonna have that and a mustache.
And maybe then Rarity will date you.
Oh, shots fired! Oh my goodness.
Is anyone here, is this your first time at a pony convention?
Welcome!
So, one thing I know nobody here was prepared for was this. Was the fandom of My Little Pony.
I thought monitors.
Oh, well, that's
I thought you were talking about the monitors too.
Right, Andrew and I were ready.
We're staring at ourselves on television here and realizing
Just like you
you
throw
know,
on the night show.
I look
At least
very
I do.
different.
Tonight show.
But with the fandom of My Little Pony, the closest thing I've ever really been able to compare it to is the original Star Trek fandom. Nobody expected you guys. Nobody. We just did a little project with ponies, and all of a sudden, everybody in the world decided that it was the best thing they'd seen. And
Thanks for deciding that.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you guys, this is something you're going to encounter from now on. So, what was your first great experiences with the fandom?
Oh, you're trying to make me cry, Barbara Walters?
Signing a permanent tattoo on a guy's neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be one.
Yeah.
You're like,
That was
this is for
special.
life.
For life. Here for life.
I kept asking one guy, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, you know, when you ask.
Here we go.
Yeah, I know. It's permanent.
I love the way the show has inspired people to pursue their passion. Drawing, animation, writing, music, dance, whatever. I just love that. And I love to hear, and it just rips me apart, but how the show is, you guys have saved so many other people by your generosity of spirit and your friendship and really this fandom to me over and over again represents the best of humanity.
So, Andrea, top that.
Oh! Good
What
comeback.
I think is awesome too is how all of you have met so many new friends.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I've told before is about a young man in Texas who wanted to, I think it was get to Florida to one of the conventions, and he had no money. So he went online and he talked to other bronies, and they said, no problem, we will get someone in every state between there and your state, and we will do a convoy. We will drive you from your state to the border of the next. You can stay with us. And they did that all the way down to Florida for free.
That's a movie star.
So touched. And he's now one of the main organizers. So that was an amazing story.
So
It's true.
Kelly, you're kind of the new kid on the block when it comes to all of this.
Yeah.
Is this your first pony show?
This is my third con, but it's definitely the biggest. I had to warm up to get to this one. 2 other ones. Yeah, it's amazing.
Did anybody warn you of what?
I don't know if warn is the right word. Prepared, maybe. But that's the nice thing about coming in sort of late in the game is that we're all friends. We all work together and hang out. So I've heard about you guys for years. And there's some crossover fans who are MLP fans that also like Barbie or some of the anime I've done or other stuff like that. So it wasn't a surprise. It was maybe a pleasant surprise, just imagining what it was going to be like and having it be even better, meeting everybody. So it's been great.
Excellent.
You guys are cool.